I think that the top reason why Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is going to lose to Pierre Poilievre in 2025 is that Justin Trudeau's biggest political asset is no longer delivering for him anymore. And if anything, they're actually hurting him. Not intentionally, but unintentionally because they just happen to suck at their jobs as much as Justin Trudeau sucks at his. And of course, I'm talking about the liberal legacy media. Usually, Justin Trudeau in all the previous elections was up against a Conservative Party leader who was willing to accept the attacks from the legacy media. If they said, well, why is your party so full of radicals? Or why do you hate women? Or why do you hate like children? Or why do you hate minorities? Just dumb dumb leading questions that are meant to make the audience think, well, does he hate women or does he hate minorities? Nonsense. I don't like Aaron O'Toole, but whenever they accused Aaron O'Toole of just radical stuff, I was rolling my eyes because Aaron O'Toole is the most milquetoast, basically a liberal politician you'll ever find in the Conservative Party. Yet he would accept every single attack they made of him. And the great thing with Pierre Poilievre as at the head of the Conservative Party is he doesn't buy any of their garbage. And this is what used to undermine conservatives, is when they would undermine themselves in the face of a rabid media who's out to make the conservatives look like the unstable option compared to the stability of Justin Trudeau. Because yes, Justin Trudeau might suck at his job, but at least he sucks at his job the same way every day, whereas they'd make the conservatives out to be radicals who are out to get certain people, and you can't trust their policies. It's kind of like what they used to do to Danielle Smith in the 2023 election. Like, what's she going to do next? And I have criticisms of Danielle Smith as a conservative, but all the criticisms that came from the left were like non-criticisms. They're almost like conspiracy theories, where it's like the like Danielle Smith's up to something. We can't tell you what, but she's up to something. Same thing that they did with what they did with Aaron O'Toole, Andrew Scheer, Stephen Harper. It's all this idea that they're shadowy and you don't know what they're going to do. But what Pierre Poilievre does that's quite amazing, like you're going to see in this video that went viral, is he doesn't accept the media's premises every single time they ask smear questions. The answers to these questions do not matter. It's just about getting that smear in front of that politician and then having them answer it. If you answer, you lose because you are giving legitimacy to the question being asked in the first place. If you don't play the game, you don't win the stupid prize that comes with it. Anyways, here's the clip that went viral. Even American conservative outlets were sharing this video because this is a masterclass in how you deal with dishonest media members.
On the topic, I mean, in terms of your sort of strategy currently, you're obviously taking the populist pathway.
What does that mean?
Well, appealing to people's more emotional levels, I would guess. I mean, certainly you tap very strong ideological language quite frequently.
Like what?
Left wing, this and that, right wing. I mean, it's that type of ideological spectrum.
I never really talk about left or right.
Anyways, I don't
really believe in that.
Okay. A lot of people would say that you're simply taking a page out of the Donald Trump book.
Like which people would say that?
Well, I'm sure a great many Canadians, but...
Like who?
I don't know who, but...
Well, you're the one who asked the question, so yeah. You must know somebody.
Okay. I'm sure there's some out there, but anyways, the point of this question is, I mean, why should Canadians trust you with their vote, given...
And then the guy finally gets to a real question. I don't even care what outlets the guy's from. That's pretty much the sort of treatment that a conservative is expected to get from Global, CTV, CBC, the Toronto Star definitely, and all those legacy media, government subsidized outlets. But the great thing that Pierre Poilievre does there is he does not accept the premise of the question. As soon as he's saying, you use populist language, like what language? Well, some people say that you're taking a page out of Donald Trump's playbook. Which people? What do I say? And the guy has nothing. And it's because the legacy media is so used to weak conservatives that his initial question by Aaron O'Toole would have just been accepted. He would have said, well, I'll work hard to make sure that people know that I'm not a populist. I'm straight down the middle. I'm a Canadian at heart. I'm true north. That's who I am. Don't even accept it. I even love the nonchalance of Pierre Poilievre just eating an apple while this putz just sort of figures out an angle of attack on him. And eventually, after they all run out, he has to ask him a real question because, remember this, the legacy media will always phrase it in a legitimate question in the end, but the initial setup to the question is meant to make Canadians hate you. So he eventually does get to why should Canadians trust you to be Prime Minister? perfectly legitimate question. It's actually a very good question to ask any politician. It allows them to be able to answer what their critics might be thinking of them without making it an attack. They can take that question in any direction they want, and that's what a good interviewer should do if you do not have a specific, well-evidenced accusation to make against them. That's exactly what you should be doing as a journalist. And I guarantee you, independent media does actual questions to NDP, Liberal, Green politicians all the time. I'm in independent media. Sorry, my being all marble mouthed right now. But whenever I've been at press conferences or at different AGM events or anything like that, whenever I'm around reporters from Rebel, True North, Western Standard, all those other outlets, the Post Millennial, we actually do ask real questions. If we have a problem with an NDP politician, we will say, you posted this about communism and how much you love it. What do you say to voters who have concerns about that? And then they just don't answer you. It's just like, I think it was, what's his name? I feel so bad now. I'm forgetting what his name is. Lincoln Jay from Rebel News did a fantastic walking interview with Omar Al-Ghabra where he just said that, can you condemn Hamas? Because, of course, this is not an illegitimate question. Omar Al-Ghabra has a history of saying that Hamas and Hezbollah should be removed from Canada's terrorism watch list or terrorism blacklist. He has a history of saying in 2011 that Israel should negotiate with Hamas, a terrorist group. He is not exactly consistent on this issue, and he's the type of guy who should have to answer whether or not he condemns Hamas. And he wouldn't. And that's what an independent media journalist does. We don't run up to people and say, well, Trudeau, some say you're a communist. Are you a communist? Why is everyone saying you're a communist out there? Because although I know people online who call Trudeau a communist, it's an illegitimate question. He's not a communist. I don't like his economic policy. He's too socialistic by far for me, but he's not a communist. So I would never say, well, some people say that you take a page out of Mao Zedong's playbook. Like, even though he actually has praised China, frankly, this question that I'm hypothetically making up as a ridiculous question of Trudeau is not feeling as ridiculous as I go on here. But that just shows you the state of Canada right now. But that is why Trudeau is losing to Pierre Poilievre. His biggest asset, the legacy media, who spends billions of dollars a year reporting in a left-wing slanted direction. It's not paying dividends to him anymore because every time Pierre Poilievre appears on the news, every chance the legacy media has to smear him, they just make him look better. And frankly, after the pandemic, most Canadians do not like the legacy media. That's vaccinated, unvaccinated, pro-lockdown, anti-lockdown. Everyone just kind of realizes that the legacy media is just not good at their jobs. They don't ask legitimate questions. They don't show both sides of the debate, and they're always trying to push you towards a certain direction. Even people who were initially pro-lockdown would have been fairly disgusted by the fact that the Toronto Star is taxpayer subsidized, and they're legitimately talking about unvaccinated people, leaving them to die on front pages of their newspaper. Anyways, but this is where I just want to quickly bring up this poll that came up from polling that was posted by Polling Canada on Twitter, X, I guess, by Nanos Research that now shows that Pierre Poilievre has a 10% lead on Trudeau for preferred prime minister. That is very big because with Pierre Poilievre being ahead of him, that basically means that people have effectively decisively chosen Pierre Poilievre, the Conservatives, for next election because opposition leaders very, very rarely lead the prime minister in polling because opposition leaders, just because there's not a lot of money in covering politics in Canada, people don't really even know who the opposition leaders are unless they've been around for a very long time, like Jagmeet Singh has been through a few news cycles. Pierre Poilievre has not been through an election cycle as a party leader yet, so there's going to be like about 30 to 40% of people who will not know who he is until the writ drops. So the fact that he has a 10% lead over Justin Trudeau, who has a probably 99 to 100% name recognition rate, is pathetic for Justin Trudeau. I also just want to quickly pause here. I don't want to be a shill for myself too much, but I do have a legal fundraiser I have linked in the description of this video below. I have a Chinese billionaire suing me for nonsense. I'm currently winning, but obviously he has a lot of money to throw at me and cause me a lot of legal expenses. So I have a Give, Send, Go link in the description of this video. Give me a few dollars and that'd be fantastic. Don't have to do it, but you can to be a great person. I love you if you do. Other than that, but I just want to quickly also just sort of mention the polling I talked about yesterday. When we see polling like this, you can always tell the Liberal Party's biggest problem is that their voters, their appeal in Canada is inextricably tied to Justin Trudeau. Whenever you look at his approval ratings and whenever you look at his personal popularity, or like preferred prime minister polling or his popularity in preferred prime minister polling effectively seems like it's his range for how well he does. His preferred prime minister polling is 23% and his popularity rating is of 27%. those are effectively demonstrate right now the floor and the ceiling of Liberal support. So when you come back here, which is an aggregation of all the polling, he's at 28. He's effectively around his prime ministerial approval rating, and I think that he can drop as low as 23% right now. I don't think he's quite at the point where he could drop to 18% in a federal election the way Michael Ignatieff was, because at least he's been the prime minister, so he has a certain amount of pull with people, whereas Michael Ignatieff was a loser professor who was only in Canada to try and be prime minister, and he was obviously, like the Tory advertising was just visiting if he wasn't actually allowed to become prime minister. But and this is where I think that the legacy media, being Justin Trudeau's biggest asset, is also his biggest flaw, is because as soon as the legacy media is not delivering, it basically leaves the Liberal Party completely floundered. They actually tend to run pretty bad campaigns because their messaging only really only really appeals to hyper socially liberal people in the GTA, Montreal, and Vancouver areas. And when the benefits stopped really panning out for Canadians, when all the random little social programs and benefits stop being beneficial Canadians, and people realize that it's only making inflation worse, and every dollar they get from the government is probably costing them $2 at the grocery store, that's when he was losing the people who had more center-left economic politics. This is why you see this is the Abacus data poll. This is why you see Atlantic Canadians now shifting hard for the Conservatives. It's because Atlantic Canadians are not socially progressive. This is why in New Brunswick, abortions are effectively already outlawed because no doctor will offer them, because the Atlantic Canadian provinces tend to be very socially conservative. They're very family-oriented people, but because of it being a more economically difficult area to live in, they tend to be more open to to government programs and different subsidies and welfare kind of seasonal work schemes. Not schemes, it makes it sound wrong, but just reasonable the kind of thing that people do in Newfoundland and Labrador, where you're a lobster fisherman during the actual fishing season, then you're on welfare during the non-fishing seasons. That's kind of the economy of several Atlantic provinces. So obviously they're a little bit more open to liberal economic policies. But now that those policies are proven to just be awful, people just don't want the benefits anymore, and they're willing to reject all this stuff, especially because on social issues, they mostly just get kicked in the teeth by Justin Trudeau. And I think that by 2025, I think that we will be seeing Pierre Poilievre's preferred prime minister numbers, and we'll show those on screen again. They'll probably be around 40%, I think. It's always going to be hard for a conservative leader because, again, even though the legacy media sucks at smearing Poilievre and they mostly just benefit his name recognition these days, they will try and find dumb angles on him that he's acted improperly in one or other ways that, if you really squint, you can kind of see how he did something wrong. It'll be nonsense, but a lot of Canadians tend to believe it. And the annoying thing about election time too, I think I said this yesterday, but I always hate this whenever an election happens and there's obviously a better choice. I'm not just saying that obviously the conservative option is always better. I think it always is, but for the average person going into this next election, obviously it's not Trudeau. Obviously, it's not Jagmeet Singh, because if you don't like the policies of Trudeau, which have all obviously failed, Jagmeet Singh would only do the policies but double the spending on them. He offers nothing more. So obviously, it's going to be the Conservatives. They're going to be the obvious new, better option for Canadians. But you're going to have a lot of people start humming and hawing and pretending to be very intellectual about where their vote's going. Oh, I'm going to read all the platforms. Like, no, you're not. You're just pretending to have a very intellectual view of politics in this country. There often are black and white scenarios in Canadian politics. Is it going to be the party who's going to lower inflation, or is it going to be the party who's going to raise inflation? That's what this entire next election is going to be about. Are you going to vote for the only party that can win seats, the CPC, that's going to stand up for parental rights, or are you going to vote for one of the left-wing parties that hates parental rights? That's what this election is all about. It's nothing to do with who's a more stable, who's more likable, Justin Trudeau or Pierre Poilievre, who connects with voters. Who cares? It doesn't really matter. I think Poilievre connects better with voters, which we see in the preferred prime minister polling, but often I don't think that should even matter this time around. Who's not going to destroy your household's economic, financial situation? Vote Conservative. Anyways, that should be it for me today. Again, I have my Give, Send, Go legal fund link in the description of this video below. I have the TNT email link also there. If you want to sign up for our email, so we'll send our articles and our videos directly to your inbox. We don't bombard people with our emails. You get an email once every 3 days. I don't think I've even sent one for an entire week now, because again, if the topics of stuff I'm going to send aren't interesting enough, I don't really want to send you like one video, like a 1 3-minute video on Israel. That seems a little bit much for an entire email. And then you can also follow me on Twitter or X, which I have my account linked in the description of this video below. And other than that, make sure to like, subscribe, make sure to click the notifications bell, because unlike myself, most people I don't think actually just scroll through their subscription feed every day to see who they are following, who's posted something new. So make sure you hit the bell if you like the channel so you actually get notified when I've made a new video. And other than that, have a brilliant day.